Happy Tuesday, everybody. Today is February 23rd, 2021, and today we are talking to Wisconsin native Jeremy Beck. All right, welcome to the Fall Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Blasey, and today is episode 148. And before I get into this episode with Jeremy Beck, I've got a couple things to say. I'm going to keep this short. I recommend you listen to this, though. I do want to say that this podcast is just a big BS session between two buddies. There are some deer camp talk in here. What I mean by that is there are some swear words, there's some F-bombs thrown in this episode, and I say that because, you know, if you have kids in the car, or, you know, you listen around your young kids or whoever it might be, or your wives that maybe don't like to hear it, I would definitely, you know, save this one for when you're by yourself. The reason I don't want to make any excuses, but we get into some things that we're very passionate about on this episode. Like I said, it's a BS session, but we cover a lot of different topics that we're very passionate about. And I know we're not going to, you know, I know everybody that's listening to this is probably not going to agree with us on a lot of things, but you know, it's good to have these conversations every once in a while, and I really enjoyed it. Jeremy, the thing I like about him is he's a straightforward dude. He's an awesome guy. I've had him on the podcast before. I've got to know him over the last almost 2 years now, pretty darn well, and the thing that I like about him is he's, like I said, straightforward, and he's going to tell you how he feels and how he thinks. Like, it's just good to have those guys around, and you know, he's a real straightforward, straight shooter guy. He'll probably spit in your face and tell you why he spit in your face. No, I'm kidding. But he is a very large human, and I wouldn't recommend getting in a tangle with him. But no, I just wanted to throw that disclaimer in there because you will hear a couple F-bombs and you will hear some swear words, but you know, it's just, I guess that's how it is. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it at all. I do swear. I mean, majority of the people probably listen to this do swear as well. So there is some deer camp talk into this. So I just wanted to throw that out there just so everybody, if you are listening in the car and you got a whole car full of kids, you might want to save this one till later. So I appreciate you guys listening and all the support week in and week out. I do want to encourage you guys to go over to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and put a review in there. Type in a little something. That just helps with us moving up in the rankings in the Apple Podcast. So like when people are searching the Fall Podcast or deer hunting podcast or something like that, wildlife, ours is one of the first ones that'll come up. So that's greatly appreciated. So with that being said, I'm going to jump over to this interview with Jeremy that we did. It's a great episode. It's a little longer, but like I said, you know, it's a passion episode. We get into some things that we're very passionate about and we want to talk about. So if you have any hate mail, I guess send it either to Jeremy Beck or I, and we'll gladly, you know, answer whatever you guys need to be answered, I guess. So long dissertation, but here it is with this episode with Jeremy Beck. All right, welcome back to the Fall Podcast, and today I've got Jeremy Beck from Wisconsin on. Jeremy, what is going on, man? I'm glad you could come back on the podcast and do this, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Aaron. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. You know, you and I feel like I was talking to Austin Chandler, and I know he's, you know, you're one of your really good friends a couple weeks ago, and I told him, I was like, you know, every time I have a conversation with, like, I just met him, and I was like, I feel like I've known him my whole life. Just the way we kind of meshed and like just talked over the phone and bullshitted. Dude, I gotta say the same thing about you. I mean, you and I have talked over the phone a few times, did a podcast before, we text quite a bit, and it's like, when I call you, I feel like I've known you my whole life, never seen you face to face.
Absolutely, man. I hope we can change that June 12th if you come down for the shoot, you know.
I'm hoping so, man. That's it. Jeremy's talking about the working class bow hunter shoot that they're doing June 12th in Galesburg, right? Galesburg, Illinois.
Yep, Galesburg, Illinois.
Yeah, go to their website because they've got all the information on there to do a 3D bow shoot. It's pretty cool. I'm hoping to make it down this year. Wanted to do it last year, just couldn't make it happen. But hopefully this year the stars will align. I can come down and drink some beers with you boys and trade some stories. I'm all for that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Kurt guy on the crew, Eric over there, Doug. They put a hell of a show on, and they're just, I mean, they live up to their name. They are working class dudes, and it don't get better than that.
They're honestly some of the best dudes that I've ever spoke with, and can't say I've been around them yet, but I feel like I have. Like, and you the same way, man. I mean, you're part of their crew. You guys are, I mean, second to none. I appreciate everything all you guys have done for me, and hopefully I can return a little bit of that, in the future here. So.
No, absolutely, man. We appreciate it, and I know Kurt has nothing but good things to say about you. So,
Well, good deal. I want to get into something here today. Actually, a couple things. This might be a little different podcast, and you and I, like, when you and I start talking, we start talking about just, random shit and good stuff, but it's like kind of on one end of the spectrum, then it goes to another. But I talked to you a little bit, and I want to get you back on, and you had some things you want to talk about, and I want to touch on those because those are some things that like are big ticket items right now. I feel like in our world, the hunting world, industry, if you want to call it that. But I think I'm going to kick it off first thing, and it's public land versus private land. And you and I kind of went back and forth on it a little bit. I can't really speak for the public land. You've hunted public land, but I'd really like to get your thoughts on. I don't know if it's so much a debate, but like maybe what you think of both.
oof, I could rant forever about this stuff. It is a funny debate to hear the public land guys, because it's kind of a hot commodity right now. Everyone wanting to kill bucks on public land, and it's kind of, I think, I don't want to say like the big buck craze has come and gone, but I think content, how you're getting that buck, has become more important than the size of the buck.
Yep. So you're saying more of the journey and more of the how it's done is kind of overtaking like how big the deer is.
100%. And if anyone wants to disagree with that, go look at the views on YouTube of any private land production versus the hunting public guys.
100%. They own the space, man. They own it.
You know what I'm saying? It's no, that's not taking anything away from the private land guys. I think I think people are just looking for what's realistic. What is the everyday guy doing? Because I can promise you, if you take a vote on who's shooting 150-inch plus type deer, it's a pretty small percentage, even though we happen to see a lot of them simply because of social media nowadays,
Right. No, I agree. And, I have it really good. I get to hunt on some of the best private ground in the Midwest. I'm spoiled. I'll be the first one to tell you that. But the thing that I'm trying to let everybody know and tell everybody is that, like, I have 2 pieces of private ground here in Michigan that I've cut my teeth on forever. And to me, the way I am, it does not matter if I go to the best piece of ground, private ground in Kansas or Illinois or Iowa, to get here in Michigan and hunt the farms that I've hunted forever. I still get the same feeling that I do out there. The deer out in the Midwest are just a little bigger than what I got here, But like I was telling you off record, man, the buck I was going after this year, if we're going to talk size, he was a 115-inch 9-pointer probably. And, dude, I almost shook myself out of the tree when he came out. It's just, that's the way I am, though. So, but I totally agree with you. Like, the public land, private land thing is a huge debate, but I like both. I stand on the fence because I like both,
Yep, and I'm with you 100%. And I guess I have a hard time taking opinions from anyone that hasn't done that hasn't done it. You know, my uncle always said, don't dog it till you've tried it, you know, because
Yep.
one thing I was always against was dog hunting. You know, I was always like, the guys that run bear with dogs and stuff, I'm always like, God, you know, that's not hunting, you know? And,
Yep.
and they used to go and do that every weekend. And so then he took me coon hunting with dogs. And then I did some running coyotes with dogs and bear hunting with dogs. And I'll tell you what, my opinion still hasn't changed. I don't like it, but
Yeah.
but at the same time, I respect it.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Definitely.
If you see these guys' passion and effort that they put into these dogs and the love and effort, it's a different kind of love for it, you know?
Yeah.
And just because you don't enjoy it doesn't mean that it's right or wrong.
Right. You know, and I've never ran bear with dogs. I have got buddies that do it, but I think at face value, and this is me, you know, just speaking, this might be judgmental a little bit, maybe, I don't know, but at face value, I think for people, it's like you're running dogs you're running bears with dogs. Like, it's easy way out. Like, I feel like at face value, people think that. But from everything that I've heard and I've listened to my buddies talk about, it is not easy. You know, it's like a lot of guys don't really want to sit in a tree stand and wait over a bait site for a bear to possibly show up, you know, and I don't think it's the easy way out, really. Personally, now the whitetail hunting podcast went to a bear hunting podcast.
No, the whole reason I dipped off on that was just to prove the point of, like, you know, everyone wants to say private land's easy, you know, and I think I told you this. There's a lot of benefits to the public land.
Yeah.
You know, as far as something as simple as if you have an 80-acre lease or you own 80 acres, that's it. That's what you got.
Yep.
I personally feel like you need to hunt a private land piece 10 times more cautious than you need to hunt a public land piece.
I agree.
I personally feel like I can be way more reckless on any public land that I hunt than I can when I go up to my grandpa's farm or a permission piece I have, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that, but I agree from the fact that I'm just going off, I've never hunted public, so I'm going off what people are telling me. You've hunted both, you know, so you can see both sides of the fence, though.
Yeah, and another thing too, you know, have you killed on both? Have you been successful?
Right.
You know?
Yep.
That's another thing is, like, a lot of opinion being thrown out by guys that, you know, just because you went and sat on some public land, did you kill anything? Did you, you know? I like to hear people have been successful on both and have gotten it done. And I don't know. I don't like the bashing on either side. I think the hardest thing is with the new craze of the public land and the amount of kind of eyes being put on them and respect, you know, like, oh man, that guy killed 140-inch deer on public land. I think the private land guys that are also putting in work are getting a little butthurt over it, and rightfully so, you know, because I think they're feeling discredited at the hard work they put in.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, because the private land guys are thinking, well, I pay for my land. You know, I put in this much time and there's a reason why I do it this way. Like, I could definitely see your side, or see that side of it. You know, I guess I never really was approached with it that way, like you just said it to me. You know,
it's two different kinds of, like, kind of bashing going on between the two. The public land guys feel discredited because if they shoot 110-inch deer,
100%.
But you know what? They probably had to work their fucking ass off for that 110-inch deer.
Right.
Now I'm not taking that also away from the private land guy that just went and shot 140-inch deer. He probably worked his fucking ass off at not bumping that deer off that 40-acre lease to the neighbors to get on that deer also. You know, it's two different skills on two different parcels that need two different approaches.
Yep. Now let me say this. Let me ask you this. For the perception of like the private land guy, do you think a lot of it is like if you're hunting private land, you need to kill the biggest deer in the area to be like, I just did something?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel, you know what? That's a really good point. I actually would agree with you on that. I feel when you have private land, the standard is higher on you.
Yes, like expectations are higher.
When it shouldn't be. It should be on your own, but we live in a world where you throw that picture out online and people are judging.
100%. Yep. And it's and I feel like the same, the flip side of the coin for the public land guy is like, I'm going on a public land hunt and I kill 110-inch deer, and it's like, like you accomplished something huge. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that was wrong. Like, I'm not saying, oh, I just lost him. Hang on. Technical difficulties.
All right, I got you.
Did I lose you there? Was that
Yeah,
me
I
or was
don't
that
know.
you?
I didn't think I hit anything. My phone's just sitting here.
Oh, I'm on Wi-Fi. That was weird. Technical difficulties there. What was the last thing you heard?
You were just talking about public land, private land,
Yes.
guys being discredited.
Yeah, so like I feel like the public land guy, if you go shoot like 110-inch deer, then people are thinking like you just like set the world on fire. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You just outdid the Austin Chandlers of the world that just shot 180-inch deer on private. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yep.
Like, I don't know how to like take that, I guess.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, it's kind of like I can't think of the guy's name. He runs that DIY Sportsman. He just shot
Garrett Prawl.
Okay. Yeah.
Huge
so you see that buck
buck
he shot?
Yes, huge.
What was that? Was that like 150-inch deer?
I think it was in the 60s. Like, I think it was
no
100.
shit.
Yeah, it was big deer on public land in Wisconsin, right?
Yes. Okay. So
on the ground.
Literally that deer right there is a prime example. Like, if that deer was a public land deer, if that deer was a private land deer, you'd probably scroll right past. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And yet that might as well be a 200-inch fucking deer.
Yep.
On public land,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just that dude shot a true giant. And like, don't get me wrong, that's a giant anywhere, but it's definitely not getting the same respect.
100%. So I've got kind of the same scenario. My closest friends went down to Kansas public land hunting. None of them have ever set foot on public land hunting before, ever. And I don't think even any of them have ever hunted out of Michigan until they went to Kansas. Okay. There's 7. I'm pretty sure there's 7 of them. My best friend shot 158-inch 10-point with his bow. Jesus. I think it's the first all-day sit he had, like this first sit in. All of them but 2, I think, killed bucks, and they killed all. Like, I think the smallest one was like a 115-inch deer to a 158. They had a couple 130-inch deer, a couple of 140s. Never set foot on public land ever. Only hunted in Michigan, and there was guys giving the guy that shot the smallest buck crap. Why would you go out of state to kill a buck like that on public land? Or not even on public land, just why would you go out of state to do that? And I'm like, I got fired up, man. Immediately fired up. Because first of all, that's a great deer. I'm going to be the first guy to be like, you did a freaking awesome thing right there. Even if it was on private. I don't care. I don't care what state you kill it in. You will always have those guys that are like, big deer bust. But they're also the guys that, probably aren't going to be the first ones at the truck tailgate with a bush light saying congratulations. They're probably the guy who'd be like, why the fuck did you shoot that?
Yeah.
And those are the guys you probably don't want to be around. You know what I mean?
I literally just ran into a guy like that at the gym or whatever. He's got shit ton of land dad's got a farm in Buffalo County, Wisconsin, and he's one of those guys. He's showing me all these fucking giants on trail camera, and so I just asked him. I was like, "Well, what'd you shoot?" You know, and I mean, the dude's 30 some years old. He's shot one deer, 160 some inch deer, and that's it.
Really?
He's whatever, 34 years old. He's shot one deer off that farm.
So okay,
and I show him mine or whatever, and he, I can tell he's kind of like,
he scoffs at it.
Why would you shoot, 120, 130 inch deer? And I'm just thinking to myself, man, that's one memory.
Yep.
Like you have one, and he couldn't even tell you like the other seasons, like what he saw, what he just doesn't have that like in him.
I got you.
And I'm just like, man, dude, one memory. Like at the rate you're going, you're going to have 3-4 bucks on the wall by the time you're dead.
Yeah. And not that that's like the end goal, like for me.
Yeah, I guess to me, I always think though, like those are memories to be shared.
For sure. 100%. I agree. 100%. Yep. Because
I'm not saying you have to kill a buck to make a memory.
Right.
I guess I shouldn't put it like that either.
No, but I get what you're saying though.
It's hard to beat. I mean, I just had 2 of my buddies this season in my driveway with bucks. I got a scale in my garage, so we're fucking. I don't know. How do you beat those moments,
You can't. You literally can't. Like, other than my daughter being born, when I killed my Iowa deer, it was the best week of my life. And it is going to be hard to top that. Obviously it was a deer of a lifetime, but still, it's not just killing that deer. It was what happened in that week.
Yeah, you had 2.
It was unbelievable, man.
Two bucks, plus you had some of the best sits in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Deer running around like crazy. I mean,
yeah,
in the woods that I literally can remember vividly. I remember November 7th, 2017, I had 5 bucks over 130 inches run by me within, I bet you, 30 minutes.
That's nuts, man.
And I didn't kill a single deer that day, but it's just, just days you'll never forget.
Mm-hmm. Now tell me this though. Okay. So I think you and I talked about this maybe on the first podcast we did, but you've lived in Wisconsin your whole life. You live in Western Wisconsin, right?
Yep.
Okay. So you live in Wisconsin. What is like the deer hunting like there? You know what I mean? Like, I know what it is here in Michigan. I'm just kind of trying to like set the stage here for the next question, but like, what is, if you kill 130 inch deer there, is that like, wow, we're starting to get some good deer out of this area? Or is that like, well, good, you kill those quite a bit. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, man, it's such a personal question for everybody, because I have some buddies that, are just like, I'd say most of my buddies are like me, you're shooting 120, 130, every once in a while you're pulling 140 some inch deer out,
Yep.
And, and I just had a buddy that just shot a double drop tine 160 some inch deer this year, off his farm. So it's like, it's hit or miss. And I'll tell you what, I also have some buddies that they'd be lucky to shoot 100 inch deer. So it's all in. I will say up here, it is very property driven because we have some farms up here. We got a group up here, the Andersons. They shoot, both brothers take a booner off their farm every year with a bow.
Really?
2 booners, same farm. They own 500 some acres.
Yep.
And it's just like they know what they're doing. They're very similar to Austin Chandler. They're phenomenal hunters and they have the property to do it.
Well, and I honestly will live by you're only as good as your property.
Yes.
You're not going to be shooting 150 inch deer if they just don't exist there, and
no. Everyone's at a different level too.
Right.
I'm at a point where some guys come down to my man cave and they're like, holy shit, this is fucking amazing. And then I go over to Austin's house and I'm like, holy fucking shit, this is amazing. It's like everyone's got a different level that they're at, and you can't compare yourself to the next person. You need to do what you enjoy. And
yep, you nailed it right there.
I think, yeah, we live in a world where sometimes, and I'll tell you what, dude, I think the negative people that we talk about. I think we give them too much credit. I truly think they're the minority.
Yep.
I think,
agree.
I think we're a 9-to-1 ratio of, this guy, he had this guy on, I actually literally wrote his name down and what he said, because I liked it. I was going to tell you this, that Brent Todd guy.
Yep.
Okay. He said he is quicker to hit that like button on a big smile over a big deer.
When he said that, I was like fist pumping.
I wrote that down because I'm like, God damn it. Because it's funny he said that thing, and that is exactly what I do. Like, I've scrolled right by a 200-inch deer.
Yep.
And you know what I'm saying? Versus someone with a 100-inch buck that is grinning ear to ear with their bow laying in the picture, proud as hell.
I'm going to tell you something about Brent. So Brent, you and Brent are actually a lot alike. So you both are consistent killers in my eyes. You guys are, getting it done basically year after year. But the thing with Brent is, and I think this, I'm not going to speak for you yet because I just know after talking to him, you and I really haven't talked much on this level. But he's like, dude, he's like, literally, if that deer is, I think his criteria, I don't know if he even has a criteria, is like, if it's going to, net over 100, 105 inches and it makes me happy, I'm good. 100% good. You know what I mean? Like, But the thing is, like, that guy has went on public land in Michigan and in Kansas and Nebraska and killed giants, 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s type deer. Okay. And he comes here and he's like, the buck he shot this year, I think I think it was like 110, 115 or something like that. And he's like, dude, I about shook out of the tree. He's like, It was just, and that's what gets me going. That's what's cool. Like, he's been doing this for years, experienced. And that's like, yeah, everybody wants to kill a 160, 150, 140, but I'm not trying to talk those guys that are like, well, I'm not going to kill a 100-inch deer or 110-inch deer in Michigan. I'm not trying to talk them into like, yeah, do it. That's not why I'm saying this. What I'm saying is, like, I guess I'm just trying to talk more positive, interaction between hunters, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, don't downplay someone for doing what they love and for being really excited over it and maybe ruining their experience.
Yeah, it's definitely a perspective. I don't know if I feel it's more younger people that still have that mindset.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I feel like everything you just said, I hear a lot from, I don't know, 35 plus year old type people, just people with a little more age on them, a little more understanding. I mean, dude, I'll raise my hand. I was the first I'll be the first to admit I was part of the problem when, I'm from Wisconsin. We used to do deer drives was our life, opening week of gun. I was off school. We'd go up, dad, grandpa, his buddies, they'd play cards, drink beer, and we'd go sit till 9 a.m. opening morning, and then we'd get all the neighbors around and we'd drive every marsh and woods around.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that had horns was shot. And every once in a while, 120-inch deer would die. Otherwise, a lot of them were 4-keys and 6-pointers.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, that was the thing, though, man. It was, you had to kill a buck.
That was the mentality. Yep.
That my grandpa's got fucking 40 fork horns and nailed to his front porch right now. I took a Snapchat of it and sent it to some buddies just because, like, some people don't believe it, and it's like, it is hilarious how many 1.5-year-old deer are dead.
Yeah.
But that's how it was. That's what we grew up with, and it was a tradition. And I'll tell you what, around, I don't know, 2005-ish range, kind of like early 2000s, the Big Buck Craze was going. Remember, the thing was, don't let your neighbors shoot it. Don't be busting deer. Don't let your neighbors shoot it. And so the first thing I fucking said was, hey guys, we got to stop driving our land and pushing the bucks to the neighbors. And then all of a sudden the neighbors are doing it. Dude, you don't see a single drive now.
Yeah. I got caught up in that. I don't want the neighbor to shoot it. I don't want to go push the deer, around. I don't want to, I got caught up into it. I was also a freaking ignorant and naive little high school kid that, immature little bastard that.
It's selfish.
Selfish.
And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I want to go start driving deer now. Like, now that I'm into bow hunting, I also have a different appreciation for it, for other aspects of hunting, where no, I don't want to start doing drives again. But at the same time, anyone that does do it and enjoys it, go for it. And I'm all for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we need to stop bashing on some of that stuff.
Yep.
I think when you hear some people still talk like that, this is one thing that really irks me. Kurt actually just said it on a podcast, and I'm just like, I kind of shake my head because it's extremely selfish. And he'll say it. He'll say he's selfish with it. But what does everyone want to do with their state laws? Turn it into frickin' Iowa.
Yep.
Man, I wish we'd adopt what Iowa has. That's what you hear from everybody. And I'm just like, seriously think about that. There would be no hunting.
No.
One. If every state did what Iowa did, in 1 year, hunting would not exist.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. That's a fact. There's not enough fucking money.
That's what I'm
to go around. You would literally shut down every state for hunting.
100%.
Iowa can do what they're doing because every other state is sucking it up and taking in non-resident hunters.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah, it's easy to fund a fucking state full of hunters when there's only 500 of you. And I'm not knocking on Iowa. I'm just saying this is realistic. Your population is so low that it doesn't take much to fund you. So when you only allow 2,000 hunters in, paying $600 a crack, not including the $200 in preference points they have, that can fund you. And it can fund your gravel roads.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't go in Illinois and do that. You can't go to Wisconsin.
Can't go to Michigan
Minnesota,
and do that.
Fuck no. So it's go fund that with Michigan.
You've got
80,000 non-residents probably in there, probably more.
Well, I don't know how many tags they sell, but it's astronomically more. I was just looking at the other day and I can't remember. I've got a terrible memory, but that's the thing about everybody's like, and I'm one. I want Michigan to be a $1 state, and I'll even, hey, if you're gonna take that other buck tag away, I'll let you raise the tag prices. I don't care. I'll pay the same amount as I would for a combo for $2 for one. I will do that because I think our herd will be healthier. I think our deer will get bigger. Yeah, I want to kill bigger deer, but I'm not saying that. I don't know. I want it to be a $1 state, but it's like I get where the state is coming from. Like our gun license sales are stupid. They're like everybody. We want to switch. The diehard bow hunters want to switch rifle season from November 15th. That's the opening day every year, because it falls right in the middle of the rut. When it gets dark on the 14th, you're basically shit out of luck for bow season. It's basically tough sled. It really is. If you can kill a buck with your bow, a good buck with your bow after November 15th, I applaud you. Like, that is, you must have a really good scenario with your property and the surrounding people around it. But they'll never change it because it's been this way forever. And a lot of small towns rely on it, especially in the UP. A lot of butcher shops rely on it. A lot of, there's a lot of towns up in the UP and upper lower peninsula that rely that bars and, grocery stores and hotels, like people rely on that money. They know they're going to get it every November, November, December. They rely on that. And it's a good pastime. I don't gun hunt like I used to. I do a little bit every once in a while if I'm home. But, it doesn't excite me as much as it did when I was a kid. I will tell you that.
No, and me neither. I think I told you I haven't gun hunted since I was 25. I still buy a gun license. But here we're still allowed to take our bow out.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. My grandpa and everyone in my family still takes a gun out, and I take my bow out, and my grandpa makes fun of me every single year. And it is what it is. But I'm not against the gun hunting. Of course, we all could be selfish, and we all could say that. I mean, gosh, in my utopia world, I'd ban all fucking gun hunting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, there's also a trad bow hunter out there that would, in his utopia world, would ban all compound bow hunting.
And crossbows.
You get what I'm saying, though? So it's like we're all at different stages and stuff. I mean, go talk to Austin Chandler, who just slayed 2 freaking studs with his trad bow. I bet you he'd love to make Illinois a trad bow only state.
Yep.
Like, so I don't know. Everyone's got their own thing, and we just need to. I don't think it's that hard to just respect what everyone loves to do, and just be glad we all can still enjoy what we have.
Yeah, I think I might name this podcast "Respect What Everyone Else Wants to Do."
Yeah, there you go.
It's just one of those things. Just everybody love everybody, as Will Ferrell would say. Everybody love everybody.
There you go. We kind of got off the public land, private land thing a little bit, but I was going to say another thing I thought of here was I just got thinking of like luck, and I was thinking about this at work today, how much luck plays into, in my opinion, the public land. I think, and I can say this personally about myself, I've killed a couple of decent bucks on public land, and I think a lot of luck comes into public land. Like, a lot of people like to say it's 10 times harder. You got to go deeper, walk farther, scout more. I also think you got to be a hell of a lot more lucky too.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because of all the other factors that come into public land that also play into what everyone talks about, why it's so hard, being the pressure. And I mean, dude, I bet I've seen a dozen freaking squirrel hunters this year walking around blowing squirrel whistles and shooting 22s up in the trees. And I mean, I had out in North Dakota this year, I had a private land guy next to the public we were hunting. He was mad that we were there bow hunting, so he was driving around prime time with his razor along the wood edges.
Jesus.
Yep, blaring music, honking horns, and just fucking burning out, having a heyday at prime time, on all these public land fields.
That's brutal, dude.
Yeah, I mean, so these are some things that, I mean, they happen, and that's why I say luck comes into play too, because of all these other factors: hikers, dog walkers, squirrel hunters, that other hunters walking in that come into play for that deer to line up with you while you're in a tree stand with a bow.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
100%. And the way you position it there, when you first started talking about this, I'm like, well, you got to get really lucky on private too. But the way you just positioned it, with more factors possibly being or coming with the public land, yes, I agree. Because
I don't want to call it more. It's not more skill. That's more luck, because all those other things you just talked about are out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
So I put that in the luck factor, where I think on private land, you almost need a little more skill with that stuff. And now, don't get me wrong, a coyote could run by, or doe could run by. There's several things that can still happen on private also, but the factors are a hell of a lot less. I guarantee that.
Yeah, and because you can somewhat, a lot of guys can control. They can control that. I agree 100% with that. I want to kind of go back a little bit, like you said before, when you were saying, oh God, I just lost it. You were saying public land, with the luck. Mm-hmm. It's just with the luck and guys that are hunting public land, I'm not gonna discredit. I'm trying to figure out what I want to say here. You know, I don't know.
Like, I don't mean to offend. I hope I don't offend anyone that hunts public land that gets a buck. I mean, I include myself in that category.
Oh, you've killed great bucks on public land.
But I'm also realistic with myself. You need to remember that all those factors are in play, and that a hell of a lot of luck was involved in that, knowing all the other circumstances that could have affected that the private land guy doesn't have to worry about, which I also feel puts some skill into that.
Yeah.
Because that goes into bumping the deer off that property line,
Okay, so do you think that there's any guys out there that are just like, the whole luck thing is like, it's not even a factor? Like, if you're successful, it's all skill.
Well, I can tell you right now, I mean, in my opinion, arguably, he would never say this, but I can say this. I truly feel like Austin Chandler is, and for being as young as he is, I think he's only 37, but he is truly one of the top whitetail hunters, in my opinion, and in probably the frickin' country.
And I agree.
And he's got the wall to back it up, and probably one of the most humble men you'll ever meet. He takes on every challenge. I mean, like I just said, he just took out a trad bow just for fun, and he killed 130 some inch deer, and I have no clue what the next one scored, but it had to be in the 150 inch range,
right,
both with the trad bow.
Right. And
in one season, and I think he did it in 5 days.
Yeah, I think they were within 5 or 6 days, something like that. It was crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. And another thing too is, like, it's not like he's got some manicured farm either. He is a regular Joe like us. Yes, he does have amazing property, but he's not hunting Bill Winke's farm.
Right.
He's not hunting the Drury's farm. He's a regular guy that's got other people hunting next to him. They still gun hunt. His brother shot 216 plus inch deer off a couple of farms down the road. I mean, they're taking deer off. They're lucky. They do have phenomenal genetics and stuff around there, but to do it like they do it, they got something special,
Right. And to kind of elaborate more on that, I'm not discrediting Austin at all. The guy, like you said, I agree with you. He's one of the best whitetail hunters in the country. I would say I'd put him up against anybody, really. But don't you think there's a little bit of luck in every scenario?
I never circled back around with that point. My point with Austin was, he will tell you himself luck is in there.
Yeah.
I never circled back around with Austin. My whole point was, like, in my opinion, one of the best whitetail hunters in the country, and he will flat out tell you there is a lot of luck involved.
Yeah. Yep.
Right place, right time. He would tell you that himself.
For sure. And to get that whitetail within bow range of yourself on whatever size farm, there is skill involved in the outdoors, in hunting, because you got to know a little bit about what the hell's going on. I mean, you could trip into a 150. It doesn't happen all the time, but there is being at the right place at the right time is a big factor in a lot of that, in a lot of situations, But getting into that situation, like sitting in that tree, like, there is skill, and there is, knowing what you're doing that goes into that. Like, you wouldn't want to sit in this, lone oak tree out in the middle of a wide open field, like a wide open, bean field. It's in the middle of nowhere. Like, yeah, if that's what you got, that's what you got. But, you're going to try to get in a pinch, or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to say, like, in every scenario, there's got to be some sort of luck, or, at the right place, right time, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I was going to tell you this too. Another thing I wrote down that popped up was this year I went out, so I had my Minnesota tag too. So I was bow hunting during their gun season.
Okay.
And so they opened on a Saturday. I'm pretty sure it was a Saturday, and I hunted the Sunday morning, and I was out there an hour by myself in the dark. And there was a couple vehicles in the parking lot, and I got out on this ridge where I could kind of see. I mean, it's big bluff country out there, so I can see down the valley, and I can see quite a bit of land,
Yep.
Well, within 30 minutes of light, there was 26 headlamps heading up the hill towards me.
Holy shit.
From 3 different parking lots. I took a Snapchat of all the lights. I mean, it kind of reminded me of those Jocko stories you hear about, like,
yeah,
fucking Vietnam, with the lanterns and stuff.
Yep.
And I'm just like, holy shit. Like,
what do you do? What did you do?
I didn't see a deer that morning.
Like, did any guys come like really close to you and set up right next to you?
No, what I did was I clicked my light a couple times just so they knew I was up there. Because what I do with my orange is I just hang the orange above me in a tree.
Yep.
And just so they don't shoot me or something. But I mean, I had 3 different guys walk up on me by 9 a.m. Literally almost to my tree. And then, all those headlamps, I lost those guys once daylight came. But, we just talked about, my whole point there was like talking about pressure and stuff and the amount of people. And, there's a lot of land out there, but I mean, that's one small little section out there that during bow season, I won't see another person out there.
Really?
Yep.
Well, let
me rephrase that. I shouldn't say that. The entire year up till basically Halloween, I can pretty much hunt anywhere on public land around me till Halloween without seeing hardly anybody. And then once Halloween hits in the rut, everyone's off.
Is that go for Wisconsin too? Or is that Minnesota?
No, I feel that's both. I can hunt both.
Yep.
I can hunt both and not see a truck in parking lots. And it's like, for some reason, Halloween hits and I think everyone takes their vacation that week, or that's why I actually, I can look at the calendar at work right now and it's like everyone's off November 1st on.
Yep.
So I take my vacation the Halloween week.
The weekend before the 1st.
Yeah, I kill most of my bucks the 25th through the 30th.
Yeah.
I've killed both 3 years in a row now. It's like that's what I do. Like I prefer that week because I still get the woods to myself and you're still getting the deer are starting to search,
Yep.
They're starting to do some daylight walking, hitting scrapes. That's when I prefer to take off because I feel it's like it's chaos out there come 1st of November.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like, that those last 5 to 8 days in October, I feel like that's when you see the top tier bucks and daylight more.
Yeah, I've heard different theories on that. I've heard that you see a lot of the 2-3-year-olds, and then if you really want the big boys, you got to wait till mid-November. So I don't know. I've never shot any real giants, so I guess I'm probably the wrong person to ask on that.
I feel like it's all situational though too. Like it's in Michigan. If I think I said this to Kurt last week or something like that on the podcast, I was like, if you tell me, if you're like, Aaron, how many days or like what days do you want to hunt in Michigan? You get those days, like 5 to 10 days. I'm going to pick the 20th through the 31st or whatever that falls of October every year. That's what I'm going to pick.
Oh, no shit. Well, dude, me and you would be in the same boat.
Yeah.
Like that's my favorite time of year too.
And and honestly, I have not killed most of my deer in that time frame, but I have seen the bigger deer on their feet in daylight in that time. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I hope you're right.
So
did you run any cell cams this year?
Yes. Yep.
Like I know it's a total
it was a game changer for me.
But I just wanted to bring that up too. Like, so I bought a couple of those Tacticam reveals.
Yep, I've got one.
So our archery shop here had them for, I think I paid $100 a piece for them. And then it was like $7 or something a month to run them.
Yep.
which to me, I spend anywhere I go, I have to drive an hour. Like any of the public land properties, my grandpa's farm, the permission piece I got, like everything's with it. Everything's an hour drive. So, I mean, you're talking $20-$30 in gas. So to me, that cell camera pays for itself within 5 trips,
100%. Yep.
So to me, I picked up a couple of those. I will say, what was your experience on it first? Did you like it, love it?
Okay, so the reveal same thing. I think I got it for $100.
How about just cell cameras in general? Did you like them?
Love them.
Okay.
Love them.
So I also loved it. Now, my only critique would be, so I had mine, I don't know if yours works the same, but I had it set up on that three picture burst.
Okay.
And then it sends you, I think, the middle picture.
Okay. I have it. I think I just have 1 picture burst, 1 or 2, I think.
Okay. So whatever. So mine took three pictures, and I think it sent me the second one.
Okay.
And I noticed after season, so I went and pulled the card and I popped them at home on the computer. And dude, I bet you I had 15 different times where I had a picture of an ass shot of a deer, right? That was sent to my phone. So that must have been like the second picture.
Okay.
And then the next picture was like a solid buck with his head turned in the frame. You know what I'm saying? So yep. I didn't get the picture of the buck. I just got a picture of an ass.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
So many of those, dude. So many pictures in October of bucks at scrapes where I just got the initial like shoulder walking in or like a really blurry rack. And then one of the pictures on the camera, though, was a phenomenal picture of them, with their antlers in the trees or looking right at the camera. And I'm just like, man, I wish I would have had that intel during season,
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I never experienced that. I have a Tacticam reveal and I have a Spy Point microlink. And really the reason why I bought them, I had the Spy Point last year and I got the Tacticam this year. The reason why I run them was because my 1 acre farm, I try to keep as no pressure. I don't want any pressure on there unless I'm hunting. So I put those in the 1 acre and I know basically I've got a good idea of how the deer move through there. So I put them in the highest concentrated areas and I got a little food plot right in the middle of it. And every deer goes to that little food plot. So I know what's in there. And a lot of the times, the reason why I wanted it is because if I'm walking in, I have it set to where like within 40 seconds of taking that picture, I get it on my phone. So like I use it a lot for like going in, knowing if there's deer in there or not. So I'm not blowing deer. And it worked twice this year. I get literally like 70 yards from the 1 acre and I'm going up a field edge. A fence row, wooded fence row, field edge, and I'm literally have my phone in my hand and I just keep refreshing the app, and I have a 70-yard mark where I'll stop there and I'll wait 3 minutes or so, and I'll refresh just for that last like push in. Twice this year, I've had bucks and does in there, and I've backed out and went to a different stand. Because I don't want to. Now I have a unique situation because it's 1 acre, but I only got like 3 stands on that whole farm, but I've got 1 stand in the 1 acre. So it's like if I step foot in there and I know there's deer in there, I'm gonna blow them. I don't want to do that. So I've done it twice this year, and it's like fuck, like I want to be in there, but I'd rather not blow the deer and go back tomorrow or something, you know what I mean, at a later day. But it was a game changer for me this year, man.
No, dude, and those Tacticams too, like, so where I have it is behind this marsh where I get such shitty reception that I can't even send a text. And yet, for some reason, and Dude, I've ran every camera. I had a Spartan, Moultrie, Cuddy Back. I've tried them all. I've had $400 cameras and I've had $100 cameras back there. And I literally just save the receipt. I go out there, see if I can get a camera to work, and I've never had one work till
Really?
these Tacticams.
No kidding.
And the Tacticams, I get like, by the way, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. If they want to, they can send me some free stuff. I'd love that. But for real, I get full bars with those things, and I can be sitting in my tree stand, and I'm getting a picture within 2 minutes.
Yep.
And I can't even send you a text out there. It blows my mind. I don't know what the hell kind of connection they have with that external antenna, but they need to put it on cell phones.
Yeah, and I agree. And I never had any issues. I've got good cell phone service around here where I'm using them, but I've never had any issues with them that way either. But I will tell you another thing that I love, and I got this from Justin Hollinsworth. He said that he started using cell cams, I don't know, years ago. I don't know when. I can't remember the year. But he's like, when I started using cell cams, it made me a better deer hunter right away. And I'm like, really? How so? And he goes, well, I've got a farm in Illinois. He's in Ohio. He doesn't want to obviously drive back and forth, so that helps. But he's like, having that data real time, when you get a picture and you're sitting at home and you're like 3 days in a row, there's just a lot of daylight activity. And then you like ask yourself why. And then you go and look at like a moon phase or a cold front or whatever it might be. He's like, it just clicked for me. It clicked. And he's like, it clicked right away. And I just became a better deer hunter. And I was more successful, after that because of that. And I'm like, never thought of it that way. So now, like even in the summer, like I remember early September this year, I was only getting dark pictures on one of my cameras, and it was like a freaking Tuesday, and all day I had bucks and does moving all day. Every hour I was having numerous deer, bucks, does throughout the whole day, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, went back and looked, and it was like I basically kind of correlated it to a moon phase. I think it was just after a full moon. I can't remember what it was, but I'm like, okay, memory bank, leaving that in there. You know what I mean? Like, it was just real-time data, and I was like, okay, that's game changer for me.
You know what I wonder about stuff like that, though? You talked about using your cell cam for approaching that 1 acre.
Yep.
And, I had a buddy this year that shot a real nice 135-inch 10-point that he watched hitting a scrape. I can't remember 100%, but it was like 3 days in a row. It hit a scrape and every time it was within like a half hour of each other. It was like between 5 and 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
He went out that next day. And it was always the same wind. So the next time he got that wind, he was in his frickin' stand by 2 p.m. Sure as shit, 5:10, 5:15. Buck comes out, hits that scrape. He sealed the deal. And you always wonder about people's opinions with the ethics of these cell cameras.
Right.
You just said you use it for, you were updating, refreshing, making sure deer weren't in your food plot.
Yeah, I could see that.
I'm always curious about people's opinions with the ethics of them.
I guess
I use them, so I guess mine, you already know where mine stand. I love them. So
I and I'm not going to try to make any excuses or anything like that, but I feel like where the line for me is drawn is if you have a camera on a food plot or a bait pile or something. I have this picture in my head and it's like, okay, you're coming in the farm, you refresh it, you're like, oh God, he's there. He's there right now. And I've got a gun. It's gun season. And I pull a stalk up and, and I know he's there and it's like, okay, I get in there and I can get close enough and I kill him. Like, okay, to me, that's pushing it too far. Like that's.
So the gun would be your line?
And I guess if you could do it with a bow, I guess that would be my line too. Not saying it's okay with a bow, but if you were able to like monitor a bait pile or something where you
Yeah.
can sneak in
And
on
have
it.
access to it. You'd have to have
Yes.
access to it. You'd have to have extremely easy access
Yes.
to it.
That's where I draw the line. I guess for me, refreshing and making sure I'm not blowing deer, a lot of factors come into it for me. And like I said, I'm not trying to make excuses, but I don't get a lot of time in a tree. So I'm trying to do everything very meticulous, very surgical, if you want to, very, strategic. And in a 1 acre is hard to hunt. And if a deer are in there, I just do not. I've spent so much time in the last 4 years making the habitat where deer want to use it in the daylight, and I just don't want to go in and just. I feel like if I have a big deer in there and I blow him out, I'll probably never see him again. So
No, that makes sense.
is that right or wrong? To me, I'm gonna say no. It's not wrong.
Well, dude, ethics is a funny thing because it's such a personal opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, a funny one to me. Do you know Justin Czar?
I know of him. I don't know him personally, but I know.
Yeah,
I know.
I don't know the dude personally either. I hear him on some podcasts every once in a while. It's kind of funny. He gets on some pretty good rants.
Yep.
I'm like, I don't know, 90% of the time I just kind of laugh and like I disagree with the dude. But he actually kind of stumped me like while I was listening to this, because I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever, dude. Because the topic got on, it was with ethics, and it was with he didn't like when people were taking over 40-yard shots. His whole point was like, why is it cool now to shoot deer far?
Yeah.
With a bow. And I think kind of like, the Cameron Haynes craze where he's on YouTube fucking shooting 3D targets at 140 yards and shit like that kind of got cool. And, when we all do it. I mean, I got my bow sighted out to 130 yards and I love dropping bombs. I'll tell you what, you go back to 50 yards and, it's nothing to put a 5-inch group in,
Right. Yep.
And I think that's what a lot of archers love about being able to shoot far and bring it back in. So the 20, 30, 40-yard shots, they're shooting fish in a barrel,
Yeah. Well, finish because I got a question here and I don't want to lose it, but finish what you're saying.
Okay. My whole point though is like with the ethics thing, he brought up a good point, and you would actually fall into this pretty good because he said, because I'm thinking to myself, what ended up happening is he had a buck like at 58 yards or 53 yards, something like that, and he didn't take the shot, and he got a lot of shit for it, okay? And he's like, I'm not doing that. Like, the whole point of bow hunting is getting close to your prey, being stealthy and outwitting them and smarting them. And then he made a point. He said, now imagine you have a camera over your shoulder, and everything you do is being watched by the world. And I'm like, because I'm thinking to myself, like, shit, I got a fucking giant buck at 60 yards. No doubt in my mind, my bow's already back.
Yep.
And then I got thinking about it, and I'm like, well, now you got to think, do you have a camera watching you now? You make a bad shot on that deer, the whole world's judging you.
Yep, exactly.
Not the whole world, I should say, but the hunting community. And I mean, they can be ruthless on stuff like that. And
for sure.
And that goes to like everything. That goes to, are you sitting on a line fence? Did that deer walk on the neighbor's property 5 yards? Are you taking that shot?
Yeah, a lot of that gets gets dropped in that bucket,
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Something as simple as, I just talked to a buddy the other day on the phone where it's like, he told me this was a while back, but he shot a buck, ran across the neighbor's fence line. He could see his buck laying on the fence, laying on the neighbor's land, went down to the neighbor's house. Neighbor asked, where's that at or whatever? And he asked if we could go get it, and he said no. They went up there and cut the deer's head off.
Really?
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, so now, my buddy, do you think he ever asked if a deer crossed the fence line?
Probably not.
Never. He's running his ass over there and dragging that buck back as fast as he can.
Yep.
And that goes to like ethics and stuff, and that's kind of where I got on that. It's kind of when Justin Czar brought up the camera over your shoulder, watching every move you make. Things are different, and I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. I'm kind of like, gosh, you know what? I'd be making some different calls on myself if I knew everyone would see it. And I
So
think anyone that's real with themselves would be.
right, 100%. And before I get to, because my buck this year was quote unquote probably a long bomb this year that I missed. Um, but before I get to that, I mentioned this in a podcast, one of the first podcasts I did. I can't remember what number it was, but I went out to Missouri. One of the first, it would have been my first buck out of state. This was years ago. And hunting, cameraman with me, hunting in a creek bottom. I got fields on both sides of me, but the creek bottom dives right, like way down, like the sides do. Like if you walking down the sides, from the top, it's kind of like you're almost sliding on your butt, kind of. It's a morning hunt. It's November 14th, and beautiful crisp morning. It gets daylight. I do a blind rattle, crack them together. 52 seconds. I'm rattling for 52 seconds. Okay, just like a kind of crack them, tickle them, wait, crack, tickle. The whole sequence went on for like 52 seconds. I look to my left. Here comes this deer, and all I see is frame. And I'm like, big buck, big buck. Mind you, at this point in my hunting career, my biggest deer was like 115-inch buck. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I just see this big frame coming. I'm like, oh my God, get the antlers out of get my bow in my hands. He runs right underneath me, and there's a creek underneath me with water in it. He stops, and he's behind some limbs, so I can't really get a really good look at him, but he's at like 20 yards. He's looking for the fight. He heard it. He's looking for it. Jumps the creek. He's quartering away. I ranged him 32 yards, pull back, stop him, pinwheel him. He runs 27 yards, piles up. Okay. I go ballistic. And I'm like, first buck I've ever blind rattled in, like 32 yards. That's a poke. 30 yards is a poke. A lot of people would say. Just pinwheeled this deer. So then we get watching the footage back, and I'm like, oh my God. Like it hit me. Like when I was watching Impact, I'm like, boy, I hope he's got a 7th point, because in Missouri, adults cannot shoot 6 points, and he looks like a 6 point, like a big wide 6 point. Only youths can shoot 6 points, and I knew that, but just got caught up in the moment, all that stuff. It happened really fast. Not trying to make excuses, but literally, it was one of the first times I've ever been in that scenario. Yeah. And I'm like, shit. God, I hope he's got like a 1-inch tine somewhere, because he's only got G2s, a brow tines, and beams that I can see.
6.
Yeah, he wasn't a giant, but he was a good 6. He's, I'd say he's probably 110-inch 6, probably. That's
a pretty fucking giant 6 point.
I don't know if he is quite that big, but I'd say 100 to 110-inch 6.
Yeah, that's a really nice 6 point.
And so I'm like, well, I'm gonna get down and I'm gonna go look at him, because I see he fell, and I walked up by myself, and I'm like, shit. I said I could not put another point on him, and I'm like, I literally just broke the law, and I'm like, fuck. One of my really good friends that I was hunting with there, his dad is the sheriff was the sheriff. I don't know if he still is the sheriff of the county. I'm like, God dang it. Like, what would I do? So then everything's starting to race. Like, what do I need to do? And my gut's like, you need to turn yourself in. It's the first thing that came to my head is like, you need to do the right thing. Yep. You could load this thing up. You could take it back. You could skin it, everything. It's your first out-of-state buck. You could just be like, I want this deer. So I called the sheriff, and I said, hey, I've got a situation on my hands. This is what happened. He's like, okay, we'll call the DNR officer, meet you here. Went and met the DNR officer. He was really cool about it. He took me in his truck, and he was writing me a ticket. And he goes, I remember he looked at me, he goes, I really appreciate you doing what you're doing, because 10 out of 10 guys would not do this. They'd either just take it or they would just throw it in a ditch. He's like, you wouldn't believe how many 6-pointers I find in the ditch every year.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, really? Okay. And he's like, well, one thing I do got to tell you is I apologize, but I got to take the deer, and you can't have the antlers or nothing. And I'm like, really? Like
Even after the fine, you couldn't keep it, huh?
yeah, he wouldn't let me keep it. They donate all the meat, and then the antlers get destroyed.
Oh, no kid. No, see, I have a hard time with that. That bothers me.
That's what he told me. That was years ago, so I don't know if that's still what it is. But yeah, I had a $250 fine. I get
the fine.
Yep.
Like, I understand that, and all day long I'll pay that fine. But to destroy the antlers, that's an awesome story.
Yeah. And then that same creek bottom, because you can kill 2 bucks in Missouri as a non-resident. I went back late season in that same creek bottom, not that stand, but not too far from it. I killed a 130-inch 8-pointer late season, so that was my biggest deer at the time. So it was kind of like I don't know if that was like that, somebody, the big guy up there, giving me one,
yeah, right.
You know what I mean,
pass.
A free pass or something. I don't know if that's what it was, but I did my homework on that setup. That was a really cool story though too. But
yeah, I'll tell you what, I'd want a 106 pointer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad about the rack, but at the same point, I think you did exactly what in that situation that I would that would be my call too. I should say this. I hope I would make that call. When I'm 20 years old, I don't know if I make that call. As of right now, I can tell you right now, hands down, I make that call.
Yeah, for sure.
You just got too many. Were you filming at that time?
Yep, it was for the show.
Oh, okay. So, dude, that's a fucking no-brainer. You have to make that call.
Well, and I had and that really didn't play into it. I mean, it did, but it wasn't like everybody's gonna see this.
Well,
it was more,
but man,
it was more of we were documenting the whole thing, even with the DNR officer and everything. We were going to document it all, and we did.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably a good thing to get out to the public too, that hey, accidents do happen.
Yep.
And, and to show that, and then another thing that comes into play with something like that is you need to have a decent DNR officer that's willing to work with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have I don't have a buck one like that, but did you ever see that bobcat I picked up off the side of the road?
Yeah. Yep.
It was a 31-pound tom.
That's a big cat.
Dude, it was beautiful. I'm still waiting to get it back from the tannery. But so I found that thing at 4 a.m, right? There's no one to call.
Mm-hmm.
There is no DNR officer. So I left a voicemail, and I did pick the cat up. And I had it in my truck, and I remember I was so nervous to have that thing in my truck because you always hear those freak stories about they confiscated the truck, they confiscated, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I'm just I'm nervous to have that thing in my truck, so I actually pulled it out of the truck, had it in my dad's driveway, waiting for the DNR officer, and it was actually a woman in our area, and she was phenomenal, and she did tell me. It was illegal to pick it up. And I told her, though, I said, they came and they take a tooth sample, they weigh it, just for studies. And I bought the cat. It cost me, I think it was $26.
Okay.
So I bought a tag for her, a salvage tag from her. And, but yeah, she did tell me it was illegal to put it in my truck. And I told her, I said, what was I supposed to do? I said, if I just drag this along the side of the road, another animal comes and picks it up and eats it, or it just sits there and rots.
Right.
Or bakes out in the sun, and she's like, I know it's not a perfect system we got, but I asked her, I said, what is the harm of actually someone picking this up,
Right.
And her only defense for it was selling it.
Okay. Yep.
So I mean, she was awesome about it though. She was like, no, I completely understand what you did, So bottom line though, I got that thing for $26 and getting it tanned cost me
it's a great looking cat
$140 to get it tanned. Oh dude, it was beautiful. I thought if I would have like had a tag and called it while I was hunting or something, I probably would have mounted it. But wicked expensive to mount a cat like that.
I can only imagine.
And so I'm like, yeah, I'll just tan it after I heard what it cost to mount it.
Oh my gosh. What was it?
It was $1,600.
Oh my God.
To mount it.
Wow. Holy shit.
I'm like, yeah, I'll pass.
Yeah.
So it cost me $140 to get it tanned. And
well,
dude, that velvet buck that I mounted.
Yeah.
That thing, like, I got the taxidermy bill on that. I'm like, holy crap. Like, it was $800.
Was it because of the velvet or just because of the shoulder mount?
I don't know. It was like $125 extra for the velvet.
Okay.
And then, I did do a wall pedestal style.
Yep. Those are a little more.
Yeah. I guess I was just used to paying about $550 for head mounts.
Hopefully the wife doesn't listen to this one, right?
Yeah, no shit, right? Dude, that was one of those cell camera ones. So me and my buddy were in the garage that day. He dropped off the buck and he's like, hey man, like, we're all standing out there with my wife and stuff. And my buddy like literally is like, hey man, how are those cell cameras working out? And I hadn't told her yet that I had bought those cell cameras. Had to give one of those winks across the garage table, and he caught on real quick.
Oh shit! Well, she's
good with them now.
Yeah. Well, they are nice though, and they're fun to look at too. I wake up every morning during season. I'm like, oh, I got stuff to look at.
No, I agree. Hey, so what do you? Not to totally swap subjects, but you said that you took a questionably far shot this year.
So yeah, so the buck that
what's questionably far?
46 yards.
Okay. Standing there, not moving?
Standing, not moving in a field.
All right.
Yep. So, couple things happened. I was self-filming. This story will be told on our show, but you'll see it all. A couple things happened. But I know everybody, to go back to Justin Czar's, thing, like he won't shoot a deer at, certain distance. I feel like if you're like, Levi Morgan, obviously he's the best archer in the world, but like, he's going to take probably pretty long, far shots. He shoots that in his sleep, but like, I know everybody out there that you hear this question, it's like, how far will you shoot? And it's like, well, I'm comfortable at 30 yards, or I'm comfortable at 40 yards, or I'll take a shot at 50 yards. It's all situational for me. It's 100% situational. Mine 46 yards to me, I've killed deer at that far. That's about the farthest I've ever killed deer. But in the right situation, which I had, I will take that shot. I am fully confident in taking that shot. And I know everybody says that. It's like, that's what they say. It's like, I'm fully confident because I did it. They're trying to like, I don't want this to sound like I'm trying to like talk myself into like it was okay to do that. It never once crossed my mind that I was like, okay, that's too far. Like,
right.
It just didn't, I felt so comfortable. So a couple things happened. He jumped my string because I stopped him. He was just on a walk. He just come out of the timber and he was on a doe. He was like just following a doe. He was with a doe all day. I watched him with the glass basically all day. Cause it's all ag field around me. And I'm like, this deer is going to stick around. And I said, I'm sitting on a standing bean field and then close to me is a cut corn field. And I said, the cut corn field was just deer loading up in it every night. And I'm like, he's going to come by me. He's got to come by me to get to the cut corn. I'm basically the last timber to the cut corn. I'm like, he's going to come by me at some point. I get in the stand and about 45 minutes before dark, his doe comes out 30 yards behind me, comes out of the timber, works out in front of me, and I'm like, I know he's back there. And I look, foliage is still on the trees. This is October 19th, I think. Foliage is still on the trees, and I'm looking, all I see tines, and I'm like, oh shit, that's got to be him. 100% got to be him. He's a tit 9 on the right. He come out, he's real tall, real narrow. I'm like, yep, it's him. Does the same trail. I already ranged her, knew where she was at. And I have a Garmin sight, so like I can go full draw and just, range, and it gives me
those are so slick.
Dude, it's
those
we could have another
slick.
podcast talking about how
anyway,
good
sorry.
that Garmin is. But anyway, I go to full draw and I click. It says 46 yards, gives me a pin, and I'm like, this is done. He takes 2 steps, and I stop him. And he kind of looked my direction, and I thought I put it low enough on him and touched it off, and then my limb of my bow hit a limb in my tree, my bottom limb, and kind of made a weird sound and vibrated my bow, and arrow goes right over his back. And I'm like, shit. So he runs off or whatever, not scared really. He just kind of bounds off. I almost get another shot at him that night. Like he kind of, in 15 minutes, he kind of does a big loop and comes to when you get to 50 or a little or over, that's when it's okay. Because my apex of my bow, my pin gap and everything, really starts to fall off at 50. 45, you wouldn't think it'd be that much, but my setup, 45, I'm still it's pretty straight dart,
Yeah.
So I get, almost get another shot at him, whatnot, go back and watch the footage that night. And not only did I don't know if the limb really affected my bow that much, but he ducked my arrow. And it was because I stopped him. And I always tell myself every year, stop stopping fucking deer. Stop doing it, especially that far away. But I didn't think he was really, he was alert, but I didn't think he was get the hell out of there that quick. But I was wrong, But will I take that shot again? In that scenario, yeah. And if he's not alert, you know what I mean? In a perfect scenario, yes, I would. So.
Dude,
Is it unethical? A lot of people probably would say so, but if I had the right scenario, I'd do it again.
Yeah, that's why I said that's kind of a personal opinion. I have a couple examples of that this year, just the deer reaction time. Me and you were talking about bow setups earlier, texting and stuff, but you switching up your arrows, and everything.
Yep. Yeah.
And so my bow's, well, I told you it's fucking insane, but I'm shooting that. I got a 31.5-inch draw. It's a 90-pound Matthews, shooting a 635 grain arrow. And
you're shooting my truck at him.
I'll tell you what though, dude, this just goes to show the reaction time. It's just insane. So I shot earlier in the year, I shot a doe at 41 yards. She didn't move. I had stopped her and let the arrow go. Heart shot her. She ran 20 yards, tipped over. Now, late season, I just had this in December. I had a doe come walking through. She was only 27 yards away. I had time to range her, set my pin, 27 yards, and she busted me drawing. And I laid it on her front shoulder. She was quartering to me. And I let that arrow go, and everything happened so fast. I thought I must have hit her high,
Mm-hmm.
And she ran down 150 yards, and I pull out my binoculars and I'm looking, and she stops broadside on the snow-covered hill and just starts blowing and stomping. And I don't see a mark on her. And so she just walks off, and I get down. No blood. I follow all her tracks. Not a single blood. Walk up to where she was standing and blowing. No blood. I walk back to where I shot. And here my arrow was buried in a tree about 6 inches. And there is just a clump of brown hair. I just shaved her back.
So you hit high.
She ducked. No, I think I completely almost missed her.
Oh, really?
She ducked so hard at 27 yards Like their reaction time is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It still like baffles me, you know. And maybe I was a smidge high. I don't know. I just felt pretty confident in it, you know, a 27-yard deer. But
In December I did the same thing, but I pinwheeled her. It
it's a
was
difference when they're on alert too.
oh
You
yeah.
know, when they, you know, and she was staring right at me.
Yeah.
Like she busted me drawing, and she was locked and loaded. And yeah, I mean, what do you do? They're incredible for survival, you know.
I messed my shot up. I shouldn't have stopped him. And the whole thing that was going through my head was okay, I'm leaving to go on the road. This is my only opportunity this year. I forced the shot. I did. But did I feel comfortable with that shot? 100%. I did. Like, I wasn't like, well, I've never shot a deer this far. Let's try this. It was never that. It was just like, you know, you've been here before. Make it happen. You know, and I just, when he took those steps, I was at full draw, and you've probably had it happen before. He took 2 steps just to kind of like situate his body. You know what I mean? You know how deer like, just like kind of, they're eating. He was in a bean field, like eating, and it was just like 1, 2, kind of like to get his feet underneath him again. When he did that, I feel like I panicked. Like, oh God, he's going to walk 10 more steps. You know what I mean? When really, he stopped. And then I was like, okay, you know, I probably should have just shot. You know, he was already stopped. So I don't know. It was just one of those things, and blackout mode. And I don't know. I screwed it up 100%. But I'm not saying Justin is right or wrong when he says that either. Like, if my wife is only comfortable shooting 30 yards max, you know, she's like, I will not shoot a deer over 30 yards. I'm like, that is good for you, because I like almost wish, not that I don't wish, like I can say that to myself, but I'm like, if I've got a good deer coming at 35, I'm sorry, I've killed deer at 35. I've killed them at 42. I've killed one at 47 yards. That was the longest I've ever killed a deer. And it's like, I've done that. You know, I know in the right scenario, I know my equipment, I know myself, I know it can make it happen. So
yeah, he makes I actually really did. He makes a solid point. I mean, I love shooting far and stuff, but I do agree with him when he made the comment about, he said, a bow hunter, you know, part of your specialty is getting close to deer.
100%, yeah.
And I'm like, you know, I did really like that. And the kind of that skill has kind of gone away a little bit with the equipment and us, you know, stretching our shots out farther. And
I agree. Yeah.
You know, so I don't disagree with them. I'm not saying that I would hold my range to quite as tight as what he does, but you know, everyone's got to kind of take their own responsibility for it, you know, and know your limits. And his biggest point in that podcast that I listened to was you need to set your limit and hold it.
Yep.
You know, if you set 40 yards and they're at 46, like, hold that limit.
Yep.
If you said, then that's what his point was. He's like, I set a limit and I hold it. And I'm like, you know, like, you got to respect that. You know?
For sure. I was just thinking that I should do that. I should be more disciplined with it.
It's funny because I'm saying all this, and, you know, I don't follow it, but also I just heard this after season 2, so maybe next year I'll consider. But
well, and I even told you too, like my new arrow setup. I'm going.
Yeah, you're going heavy.
I'm going heavy. I have never really went heavy. I was always in that mid kind of light to middle range. And this year I guess you could say I'm jumping on the bandwagon of the heavy FOC, but I am, and I only shoot 65 pounds. I'm a 28-inch draw. I'm not a big dude. But I'm having a problem with passing through deer. I do not get pass-throughs. And the thing is like, I say that to myself, but then I'm like, well, shit, man, look at the past 6-7 years. Since 2013, every deer, with the exception of 2 that I just hit bad shots, Every kill shot that I've watched the deer die, but they weren't pass-throughs. None of them were pass-throughs.
Now, when you say pass through, do you just mean a hole on the other side, or do you mean your arrows laying on the ground?
Arrows laying on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because some people, just so you know, I mean, even with my setup, there's times I don't get a pass through.
Right. Yep.
You know me. I love that 1/4-2 shot. I shot my buck this year, 1/4-2, and that was actually a funny story. I'll tell that quick. He was up on a ridge, and I was on a secondary ridge. And what ended up happening is he hit a couple scrapes, worked his way down, and he's angling down the hill towards me. And he's cutting across me though, angling away. And he's at 49 yards. I dial my sight to 49. I'm just about to stop him, draw back. And all of a sudden he makes a 90-degree turn straight at my tree, coming down at me. And so I got kind of like, I call it my emergency setting on my dial, where if I spin it all the way down and it's right to 20.
Okay. Yep.
And I I'm not as fancy as you. I don't got the Garmin. But so, and here's a sales pitch for the Garmin. I go to dial my sight down to 20 and the dial just spins.
Oh no.
It's not grabbing. There's no, the threads wore out. Okay.
Oh.
And this is not a cheap sight. I was fucking furious, dude. And it just starts spinning, and this buck's coming at me. And by this time, he's at 17 yards, and there's a tree angling. And I had to, I had to let my bow down. I'm spinning this dial, and I get so mad. I grabbed the sight, and I just crushed it with my hand down till I forced the sight down to 20.
Oh my gosh,
I
dude.
grinded it down. I was so mad. And then I drew back on him, and a tree was covering up his entire body, and is all I could see at his feet. So I just did kind of a full-out squat on my stand and got down to where I could see him, and he's looking right at me.
Oh.
And I just laid it right on his front shoulder, and dude, I just let it rip, just smashed him. And you could tell he took his last gasp of breath because he kind of let out a heavy grunt, and took off down the hill. He made it probably 60 yards down the hill and just started tumbling. And that was it. I walked down to him, and my arrow actually broke in him. And so the arrow snapped in half, right? And the broadhead is sticking out his ball sack, and the other half of the arrow with the veins is sticking out about an inch away from that arrow. And they're both jetted out about 6 inches out the other side of his body.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, holy crap,
But you got all the goodies with those 1/4-2 shots.
All the goodies.
But,
yeah, that was pretty crazy though. But dude, that sight, I was so mad. I brought it into the archery shop. It was all covered under warranty and stuff, but I had to wait till after season. They were with COVID and stuff, no way are you getting the sight back,
We need to get you a Garmin. You just need to go Garmin.
Dude, I got to shoot one. This dude, Damien, he had one at the bow shoot last year, and he let me play with it on his bow, and oh god, dude, those things are so slick.
They are. It's the. How do I put it? It's the most. It's the best piece of archery gear I have, and have ever had. Because
I almost don't. The only thing I would say, my biggest complaint would be, it'd be nice when they make it a little lighter.
Yeah, it's
on
not
the front end.
It's not terrible, and Matthews. I shoot Matthews. You shoot Matthews. They're always Matthews bows are always top heavy. So it just when I run a sidebar, so my bow is it feels like a boat anchor. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. I was just gonna say, I'm kind of being it's kind of stupid for me to even say that because my bow is heavy as shit.
And you're a giant, so you shouldn't.
So I don't even know why I'm complaining about the weight. It's my bow is disgustingly heavy.
Yeah. When people pick my bow up, they're like, "Holy shit, how do you?" But really, the Garmin, it really isn't that. It looks heavy, but it's not that heavy.
No, me personally, I'm not that great of a shot. So I like a heavy bow because it
Mm-hmm.
keeps me steady.
Yep.
I don't know if you're that way, but I've shot carbon bows and like, dude, I am all over the fucking place.
I shot a carbon bow for 3 years before the Matthews.
Did you like the carbon?
I didn't mind it. I felt like with the carbon bow, it gave me the ability to move weights that I wanted to move to get it to the point where I wanted it if I wanted it to a certain point with because I've shot a sidebar for a long time.
Yep.
So it gave me the ability to put weight on the front or weight on the back to get me where I needed to be. And if I didn't want that, I could be light, so it did give me some flexibility because with the Matthews, it's like, I mean, I love Matthews. Best bow I've ever shot. Hands down, swear to God. But out of the box, they are, they're known to be kind of top heavy. And it is,
Yeah. I love my Matthews. I've been rocking a sidebar now for a few years. And I'll tell you what, the sidebar I love because I started shooting with my quiver on.
Mm-hmm.
And I leave my quiver on all the time.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, you don't like your quiver on?
No, I don't.
I feel like a lot of whitetail, like straight up whitetail hunters, like tree stand whitetail hunters don't.
Yep.
I do since I started heading out west. It's really nice to have it on. And with my sidebar, I balanced it with my quiver and with a full set of arrows.
Yep.
And dude, I really like it.
Do you?
I do.
I think I could run if I shot it. I think I'd be fine. But that what is it? The Q light. I think Matthews quiver. That's the 2-piece.
2-piece. Yeah.
I think I could run that.
Yeah. That's what I have. I ran that on my bow, and then I did it on my wife's, and she actually prefers the quiver on the 2-piece with loaded up with arrows, and it like just sits balanced.
Yep. Okay. That makes sense.
Everyone's different. Everyone's got their own thing. Some people don't like. And I'll tell you another reason I like that. It's easy. I have another arrow knocked and ready to rock without even thinking.
See, that's nice though. That's nice to have.
You're not looking around to wherever you hung your quiver and it's, I mean, go hang your quiver somewhere and then get an arrow out of it.
Right. Yeah.
You almost have to have two hands because you got to hold the quiver, disattach the arrow. Yep.
No,
Depending how it's attached in there, normally it's got 2 grab points. Like when it's attached to your bow, you only need one hand. You know?
No, I agree. Yeah, makes sense. Because
everyone's got their own thing, though.
There's been times where I'm like, where I've missed a deer and like trying to grab an arrow behind your back, still keeping an eye on the deer,
Mm-hmm.
There's been times like that, but I think definitely if I ever do go on an elk hunt or whatever, I'm going to have to learn to shoot with a quiver on just because, I think you're not going to have time to take the quiver off, I feel like, in some situations where you just got to run with it.
No, and like I said, man, that's a personal choice and stuff. Everyone's got their own thing with that.
Yep, definitely. What broadheads are you shooting?
I'm shooting the Rage Hypodermics.
Okay, have you shot them for a while?
Yeah, I've done quite a few different broadheads. I will say these are by far my favorite, though.
Yeah, I've been shooting hypodermics since they come out. Like before, I shot the Rage Extremes, and then hypodermics. I tested some new broadheads this year, but Rage Hypodermic is all the bucks on my wall that I shot with a bow were all with a hypodermic.
To me, the broadhead argument is so funny when I hear that from people because I think it's such a simple argument, and I understand it's a personal choice and whatnot, but to me, everyone wants to talk about a double long shot, and to me, I don't give 2 shits about a double long shot. Like, you show me a broadhead where you make the shittiest shot in the world, and that deer dies the fastest.
Yeah.
That's the broadhead I want. And I have 3 bucks downstairs. I'm not proud to say this. I'm just saying that I like this broadhead because of this. I've made some, straight up gut shots and horrible shots. and those deer have been dead within 50 yards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people don't. You're not finding that deer.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I've been lucky enough, and I truly contribute that to the rage broadhead and just the devastation that thing does to. I mean, dude, I opened up these deer, and it looks like straight up hamburger on the inside. And that's on a gut shot. It's on a way far back shot. I mean, if you give me like, holy fuck, I could send you some pictures of the bucks I've shot. You give me that 1/4-2 shot that I like, and I mean, I am just destroying that shoulder.
Yeah.
And everything in their chest cavity.
So that's good to know, though, too. Like going with a heavy arrow, hoping that those expandables still do a good job of penetration. I'm hoping it doesn't like take everything right away from that heavy arrow, if that makes sense. If you hit a shoulder.
Everything you just said, I agree with. I think the thing that makes the rage so awesome is those heavy arrows. I think where people were having all these, I always hear about people like, oh, I lost my deer because my mechanical didn't open up. It's like, no, you didn't. Like you lost your deer either because you made a shitty shot or you don't have enough behind the arrow.
Right.
And I know people just don't want to admit that. They always go back to you only need 35 pounds to kill a deer. I understand that, exactly. But 35 pounds isn't going through a front shoulder.
Right. Especially with a light arrow on it too.
It's tough, man. I know everyone chased the speed for so long.
I did it.
Yeah, dude, we're all guilty of it. I mean, that was the craze.
Yep. And now it's going back.
Same age. We probably went through every stage of this, together. It's like, we've been there. It's and I know everyone likes to crack on the heavy arrow thing now, like because it's kind of become a fad.
Yep.
But I will say the FOC, in my opinion, it's a legit thing. It's I'm not saying go be the guy that's rocking a 800 grain arrow
with a compound.
Be realistic with yourself. But I mean, I don't think it's out of line, regardless of your size or what poundage you're pulling or draw length you got, to have a 500 grain arrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't think that's out of line.
And if I run 100 grain head, I'm gonna be right at like 550 with my setup. So,
dude, and that, like, to me, that's awesome. Like,
yeah.
And I get it. Everyone's going to be out there talking about all their pass-throughs through their double lung deer where it didn't touch anything. I get that. You went through a bunch of tissue. And you know what? That's fine. Some people, they won't take a shot like I would take. If you get a straight on or a 1/4-2 shot, there's a lot of people that are like, I would never take a shot like that.
Right.
And that's your choice if you want to do that. I choose to, and that's why I make my equipment so I feel comfortable taking those shots.
For sure. And that's just,
and it sounds like you're making.
Yes.
It sounds like you're making that choice too.
Yep. That's just you doing your diligence and doing all your detail steps to like make sure, like you even said, like I shoot a rage because if I shoot that shitty shot, I can hopefully rely on that rage. And I do the same thing, and a little bit of it too is like they tune really well. Not to say you can't tune a fixed blade, but there is some more steps that go into it,
You are 100% right. You have no clue. Like my bow was a nightmare to tune.
Really?
With the high poundage. We actually did it with Matthews.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had a specific arrow setup that they ran through. They gave me like 5 different options. And that was another thing. What do you shoot for arrows right now?
I shoot like brand.
Yeah. So, Victory, Easton.
Nope, I shoot a Bloodsport. I've shot Bloodsport for 6 years now.
Is that the micro diameter?
Yep, I shoot the micro. Yep.
Okay. So with a heavy arrow setup with that, your penetration's probably insane.
Yeah, I want to go back too and talk about the double lung. Like, I do shoot deer where I do have 2 holes, and I'm not saying I want to blow through every deer. I would love to. Don't get me wrong, but I don't get 2 holes all the time. So when I say that, I want it to be at the end, in the leaves, in the dirt. Like, yeah, that is the goal, but I'm trying to go for at least every time getting 2 holes. Like, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that, because like when I say pass through, to me that means 2 holes.
Yeah. And yeah, and when I hear pass through, I'm like, it's in the dirt. You know what I mean? Which makes sense for both ways.
Yep, Yeah, I was gonna say I understand both ways. I guess to me, as long as if you get 2 holes, you got 2 sides bleeding out. That's it. To me, it's really hard to find unless you got an arrow sticking up in that chest cavity, wiggling around.
Yep.
If you don't have 2 holes, that's some of those deer are really hard to find.
Hell yeah,
they start pooling up inside. Especially, I'm looking at a picture on my computer screen right now of a deer, and I told you I started sitting lower. Like when I hang my tree stands now, I only like to go 10, 12 feet up in the air.
Yep, same here, man.
Because I'm at a more parallel plane with that deer. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I started doing that this year.
Versus when people are sitting 25 feet in the air, I get it. The scent's awesome. I understand that. But when you're shooting down on that deer, and now, like you said, you don't get 2 holes. Now you got a hole on the top third of a deer shooting down on them. Where are they bleeding out?
Not really bleeding out at all.
They're not. They're just that blood is just pooling up inside of them. And to be that honest, I'm not that great of a blood tracker. So I like to have I need the more blood,
Yep.
Some people, I feel like a deer's got a better chance at hiding and, getting down in a marsh somewhere, and you're not finding that deer.
Yep, for sure. I agree 100% with that. And that I just wanted to clarify that too, because when I got talking about, I'm like, well, it's not realistic to get an arrow to blow through a deer every shot. You know what I mean?
No.
I'm trying to get 2 holes in the deer. If I can get 2 rage holes in it or whatever, especially rage holes, and I'm doing pretty good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Doing the cut those things, man, I don't know. And like you said, the tuning. The other thing that I couldn't agree more with was the tuning. Dude, I can shoot those things like darts out to 100 yards.
Yeah, and I know a lot of guys are probably listening
just
to this
like my field tips.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of guys are probably thinking like, yeah, you're taking the easy route out. Well, trust me. Like it might be sounding like that, but like I've shot fixed blades for a long time. That's all I ever shot until the bows got a little faster. And yes, you can, tune fixed blade broadheads. You can. If you put the time in, you do have the right setup, you can do it. Not saying you can't. I choose to use a mechanical broadhead. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, I got sitting right in front of me here. I got the G5 Montex, the Hellraisers. I've shot all these, shot deer with them. And I still don't think they're as devastating as the Rage has been.
Yeah. I will say one broadhead that I did see firsthand that is just as devastating, and this might come to as a complete shock, but is the G5 Dead Meat. I think it's the Dead Meat.
Yeah, I've heard of them, never shot them.
Is it the Dead Meat? I think it is. Don't quote me. It's the Dead Meat or the other one. So Casey, he started shooting last year in 2019. He started shooting the G5. Oh shit! Is it the Dead Meat or is it? What's the other one that they have?
I feel like I've heard of Dead Meat before.
God, I should know this. Anyway, he shot a buck in Kansas. Him and I shot 2. He shot a buck and I shot a buck in the same day with our bows. And he shot one in the morning. That blood, the blood that deer lost was, I mean, you would think it would have been a Rage blood trail. It was just so devastating. And this was a smaller diameter cut. I don't think it was a Dead Meat because it was a 3-blade. I think it was the 3, or maybe it was the 2-blade. Shit. I had to look this up. Hang on, I'm going to look it up while we're talking because it's going to bother me.
Now you're too curious.
G5. But no, that broadhead, it had me thinking like, man, like it was legit.
Was it the slip cams or did it fold over?
It was the slip.
Like did it?
It was like the rear deploying one. Like
Yep, rear
like,
deploying. Yep, slip cam.
it's not the mega meat. It's the dead meat. He shot the dead meat. The 3-blade dead meat. It was a 3-blade.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 3-blade dead meat. And I started shooting when I started shooting Rage. I've shot Rage for like 10 or 11 years now. I started shooting a 3-blade and had terrible luck with the 3-blade Rage. Ever since then, I was like, I'll never shoot another 3-blade. And then that was just my whole demeanor and my thought process. And then he brings out this 3-blade and just completely demoralizes this deer. And this deer died in 40 steps. I mean, it was probably a little farther than that, 40 yards, 50 yards. He died so fast. When the arrow hit him, he was a dead man running. It literally was. The blood was just pouring out of this deer.
Yeah. Did you hard shoot him?
No, it was just behind the heart, a little low. You can see it on our show on YouTube. It was a buck. He was at farther shot. He came out grunting after a doe. He was in a CRP field. We were in a cedar tree, and he was in a CRP field. It was in Kansas. You can see that show, and it was a farther shot. I want to say, I can't remember, 38 or 42 stands in my head. He absolutely pinwheeled this deer, and that deer is actually, I'm working on a storyline that we're doing right now. That deer, we chased that deer. We had the farm for 4 years at that point, and we chased him for 4 years. Going out of 2018 into 19, Chris encountered him in 18, hurt so bad that we didn't think he was going to make it through the winter. Never showed up again on camera in 19, and just so happened he ran a doe by us that next day, completely a different deer. I shouldn't say a completely different deer, but score went down immensely. Like his mass went down immensely. Like his body was, he was just an old deer. But he was he had characteristics. He had a notch in his ear that he had that we identified with him. And you could just, like the way his rack was, like the characteristics of his beams and everything, I'm almost positive it's him. You could never be too sure, but like the notch in his ear was like almost too identical. And then but it was almost like one of those things you look at, it's like, man, in 1 year, how can that deer like go that far? He went from like probably a mid 150s to like 140s type deer, and he was probably, we figured when we first got the farm, in 2016, we figured he was a 4-year-old. So he would have been 7 or 8 when he shot him.
Wow.
So it's a pretty cool story.
No, you guys put out such phenomenal content. And I was actually just talking to my buddy John about that, about how he agreed too. Just you guys' production level is outstanding,
I appreciate that, man. I really do. And we're working on all the stuff that we had, that just shot in 2020. So that'll be starting to roll out soon so everybody can see that. But yeah, we had another great year. I mean, gun season was fun. It was the first time I actually got to tote a gun, for a buck in a long time. And I killed a good deer, and we all did. In mine, he broke 34 inches off, but 10 days before I killed him, he had a full rack. And
I was going to say, seeing what you did, I don't gun hunt or anything, but I was like, God damn, it makes me want to bust a rifle out.
Well, the other cool thing is we were shooting the new caliber for Winchester, and I think I was one of the first 10 or 15 people to shoot a deer with it. So.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so that was kind of neat.
So you got to be the test dummy.
Yeah.
Well, it paid off.
Yeah, 196 yards.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. And I passed.
Dude, that buck looked cool, too.
He's a really cool
deer.
He
looked heavy.
His bases were 6 and one was 6.5, the other one was 6 3/4.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, the way he is right now, we just for shits and giggles threw a tape on him. He scored one, like right at 126, And
with a broken beam.
With a broken beam and a broken G3, and he had an inside point that he broke too, because 10 days before that, he was fully, full rack. So we went and looked at those pictures and kind of like did the best we could, and we figured he's mid 150s to 160 right there. Yeah. We had some history with him too.
I was going to say, you guys will have to get down there and do some shed hunt and see if you can find that.
Yeah, he, the year before, so 2019, when I killed my deer in Iowa, I filmed that deer in the beans in September, and we named him Wilson because he was just, his eyes and his rack was above the beans. I got the footage. Casey and I were glassing, and the Wilson from the Home Improvement Show.
Yeah,
we just named him Wilson.
Taylor Wilson.
Yep. And I didn't know it was him when we shot him. When we got back to camp that night, we were drinking some beers, and Casey, his and I's cot were right next to each other, and we're all just kind of bullshitting. And he looks at me, he's like, dude, pull that picture up again of that deer, like the hero pictures we did. And I'm like, showed him, and he goes, I'm telling you, dude, that's Wilson. I'm like, no way, like no possible way. And he's like, I got the trail cam pictures here on my computer from last year, pulled them up. He's got the same notch in his ear, same notch from the year before. His brow tine, his left brow tine, kind of lays on his beam the same way. Same inside points, and he just grew more mass and tine length in a year. It is 100% him.
But you had pictures of him in 2020.
We had a couple pictures of him. 10 days, we didn't have any pictures until 10 days before I killed him. We thought he was dead. But 2019, we had, dude, I've got piles of pictures of him. Piles.
No kidding.
Yeah.
How old do you think he was?
So I just sent his teeth in this week to get aged. Giant deer. He had a 38-inch neck. Or no, 35-inch neck. 35 or 30. I think it was a 35-inch neck. Giant body. When I caped him out.
Did you guys weigh him?
No, because we didn't have a scale. I wanted to weigh him, but we didn't have a scale. Yeah, he was huge, long, just big deer. When I caped him for the mount, I was caping him, and I turned his head around and kind of like got in his lower jaw, had no front teeth, no bottom front teeth at all. They were all down in his gum. Like I had to dig them out of his gum. Like it was weird. Like no teeth. All you could see was it was like somebody took like a grinder to his teeth and grinded them all the way down into the gums.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know how old he's going to be honest with you, 2019, all the pictures of him, to me, he looks 4.
No shit.
Yeah. But he had a huge Roman nose in 2019. And he still does. Like his nose right now is broke, completely broke. But 4, possibly 5, I would say. But if he is older than 6, I'd be very surprised.
That's weird because, you ever see those? Me and Alicia were just at this deer museum when we went out to the East Coast, and they were showing there's some of these deer farms, they were showing the jaw breakdowns and stuff.
Yep.
And I mean, you don't start seeing wear on the teeth like that till 6 years old,
Yeah.
You see 6, 7, 8 years old, and once you hit 8, there's no teeth there,
Yep. Yeah. And
what do you think, 6?
Well, if you had to put a
5?
gun in my head, I would say he was 5.
No shit.
Yeah. But if he comes back at over 6, I'd be really shocked, because my Iowa buck, I got aged and he was 7.5, and it's 90. I do the deer age thing. I send the teeth in, and they're 90, 98 or 99% positive. This is how old he is. And his teeth were fine. I mean, a little wear, but nothing. But I did talk to, down in Kansas, our lease is a huge cattle farm. Okay. So it's just all cattle ground. And I talked to a guy at a butcher shop, and he's like, I was telling him about it, and he's like, you get a lot of these deer around cattle ground, and he said they get so much salt from the salt licks. He's like, people will see their teeth rot.
Oh, no kidding.
And I was like, never thought about that. Don't know if that's true or not, but that's what he was saying. So I'm like, well, maybe,
Well,
I don't
shit,
know.
if your deer comes back at 5 years old with completely rotted out teeth, like, that's a damn good theory.
Yeah, I don't know if I took pictures. I'll send them to you. It's crazy. His bottom teeth are crazy.
Yeah.
I
Dude,
hope
he
they
was
can
such a
age
cool
him off
buck,
him.
though.
Oh yeah, it's really cool. I
He's gonna
can't.
be a sweet head mount.
And that's where everybody's like, "You gonna get him mounted the way he is?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's the way I shot him. Like, I did think about getting him rebuilt just because of all the history and encounters and footage and camera pictures and everything we could recreate to a T what he was. But I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't know if I want to do that. And he's so massive, dude. So massive. Like, I never thought I'd shoot another deer like with the bases as big or bigger than the Hambinos from Iowa. And
Yeah.
he's got just as big, if one base is bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, the kind of rebuilding of the antlers and whatnot, that's a funny topic too with people,
Yeah, it is.
I got buddies that lean both ways. I guess my theory on it is if you got enough trail camera pictures and accurate enough info,
Yep.
like, I'm all for it. I have a buddy that shot God, what year was this? This was 2014. He shot regular Joe dude, permission property, 80 acres. And he ended up shooting a 174-inch 13-pointer with his bow. Just beautiful buck, man. And ended up, it was like I bet you he had 1,500 pictures of this deer.
Jesus.
It was just that much of a homebody, day walker. I mean, it was awesome. Like, bottom line though, he broke that tine, and I remember he was asking a ton of buddies like, "Hey, what do you think? What do you think?" And it was like a solid 7 inches off his G3.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, you got that many pictures of the deer. Like, he's such a beautiful, perfect rack buck. I'm like, me personally, I would have fixed it.
Yeah.
On a deer like that. Now, I go, your situation, I don't think I would. I think I would leave him broke.
And that's kind of where I was. Like, I'm like, man, okay, I physically filmed this deer the year before, twice, and I didn't have any encounters with him. He really wasn't like, we got tons of pictures of him, and we got pictures, and I'm like, I was on the fence. I was like, well, I didn't know it was him, like, when I shot him. I just thought it was a huge chocolate rack deer. Didn't even know he was broke. It happened so fast. As you'll see when you see the footage, it happens really fast. But I'm like, man, I'll call some taxidermists just to see how much it is. And that was the decider that I was like, nope, not gonna do that. Like,
was it super crazy expensive?
I got 2 quotes for over $500 just to fix him.
Just to fix them? Yeah. He'll stay broke.
Yeah. He's cool enough the way he is. And I've got trail cam pictures of him when he's not broke 10 days before, so that's good enough.
Just frame the picture next to him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, I don't know, man. I think it's kind of cool to have the character too.
Yep.
Like, I don't know about you, but I got a 12-pointer downstairs. He's real narrow. He's 148-inch buck, but he's a legit 6x6. But he's 14 and a half inches wide.
Holy cow.
Like, real heavy, not super tall tine, but he's a beautiful buck. And he has a slit ear. And I mean, like, the entire ear is completely split.
Really?
And he's got a giant scar down his face. He was kind of like a bully. I mean, we seen him all season, finally caught up with him. But, like, I had the taxidermist make sure that ear is, like, completely split when you mount him. And I wanted that scar,
Yep.
So some of that stuff, that character is so cool,
And that's what I told the taxidermist. My taxidermist, he's really good. And I was like, I called him. We were coming home from Kansas, and I'm like, well, He's doing my Iowa deer too. He's been so backed up. He's getting to my Iowa deer soon. But he's like, I said, he's got a hell of a broken nose. He goes, you're going to make me break this deer's nose in your mouth and make it look terrible. And he's kind of like sarcastic like that. And I'm like, you know what?
Yep.
I was like, it's so cool though. And I said, if you can do it, I want to do it. And I said, I will throw a disclaimer. Everybody that comes into my house, when they look at it and it's a weird nose, I will tell them that this was not your work. I will say it's just, he had a broken nose, because it is completely broken. I mean, huge scar down the nose, huge scar down his face, just completely broken nose.
Oh my gosh. See, dude, that would be a must.
Yeah.
Like if I had a mounted, like that would be I'd pay extra to make sure it was like that.
Yeah. And I took pictures for him too. Like I took a whole bunch of different pictures, like, here, this is how it is. And like that just adds to the memory and the story,
Yeah. Do you ever think about this? Like all these mounts and skulls we have, like all the money we put into it, memories we have, and when we're dead, they'll probably just go in the garbage.
Don't fucking tell me that.
Dude, I was sitting downstairs and I'm just like you're lucky you have a kid. I have a stepdaughter, but I'm like, man, I need to make like friends with a buddy with a son or something that's not into hunting, that wants some of my shit when I'm dead. But
when I get older,
maybe
I'll
some bar that'll take it,
Yep, when I get older, I'll just sell them to a bar or a sporting goods shop or something. But the thing is, I think about that, but then I also think about when I'm sitting down at my desk right now, because right now I just kind of got them hung up because, like I said, we're in between houses. But like, I look at them like, man, that was a cool fucking day. Like that was a cool, like, I want that. Like I just love that.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, I've sent you some pictures of my man cave downstairs. My wife let me do up, and I could sit down there all day and just watch hunting shows. And I mean, me and my wife just sat down there. I don't know, it was probably a couple weeks ago. We actually had on your guys' show, and down there, just sitting, had the fire going, and like, I don't even think I was watching you guys. I was just too busy looking at my bucks.
Yep.
But it's just, just all the memories, and you can relive every single moment.
For sure.
When you love it, it's not hard to relive that day in your mind.
Consumes us, man. That's what's so much fun about it. And I don't know what I'd do if there was no hunting.
Well, I think I'd be a poacher.
Or I'd be a basket weaver.
yeah. No kidding, right?
Yep. Well, man, we're at 2 hours. Probably should cut this one loose, you think?
Yeah, we probably should. You got to get out to that bow shoot this summer, though.
I'm going to try my damnedest. The only thing I could see a big hindrance on it is we're hopefully going to be heavy into building our house then. So
that's true.
So
you're probably going to need you'll need a mental break anyways.
That's what I'm thinking. And if you guys, if I do, I mean, it's a ways away now, but like, I'm going to figure out like wherever if you guys are going to shack up or something, I'll, see if I can, if you're going to do a hotel or something, maybe get with, not in your room, but like, close where we can, hang out and stuff like that. So
yeah, everyone hangs out and stuff. I don't know if they were doing like an after party. I think they were doing it at a bar after the shoot even. I mean, it's like an all day thing.
Yep.
Then they'll go till last man standing,
Perfect.
I'm definitely not that guy. But,
I'm not either.
But no, it's a good time, man. I don't know, it's a blast. Everyone listening and stuff, June 12th this summer, WCB shoot. You're missing out if you're not there.
Yep. I think it's $20 entry fee, but there's a whole bunch of prizes and raffles and stuff like that.
Yeah, they do a ton of giveaways, and the 3D shoot's awesome. Kurt and those guys, everyone's so welcomed and involved, and I mean, they got all kinds of apparel, gear, food. They just do a really nice job, and everything's pretty well organized too.
Yep. Yeah, like I said earlier, go to Working Class Bowhunters website. I think it's, workingclassbowhunter.com maybe, podcast?
Yep.
And go there and then type in shoot, which is spelled SHOOT, W-E-T?
Yep, Shewt.
Okay, there you go. Yep, that's how they spell it, because I think that's the way you're supposed to spell it, right?
Yep, there you go.
And all the information's right there.
Yeah. No, it was a good time, man. I appreciate you having me on, and we'll be in touch here.
For sure, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. All right, there you have it. Another great episode. Thank you to Jeremy Beck for coming on and doing this. I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and honestly didn't turn the radio off halfway through or a quarter way through because you didn't really agree on what we were saying, but it is what it is. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm not saying that I'm right or you're wrong or vice versa. It's just that's what we think, and that's how we feel about things. So I appreciate you guys listening. I'm going to say it again. Please go over to iTunes, leave a 5-star rating, leave a review. That would be greatly appreciated. So thank you guys very much, and we'll see you right here on the Fall Podcast next week.